Hi, my name is Emily Iannelli. Um, say hello, my friend. Say hello to my friends out there who listen and follow me. Um, Snowball or Lamb Chop. I have two names now. Snowball and Lamb Chop. So, here I am. Another day. Another uneventful day sitting at home, thinking too much, worried about things. Um, and just bored out of my mind. There's only so much writing I can do. There's only so much TV viewing I can do. And sometimes I just need to get away from all that. Writing helps me, but I am not always creative or in the mood. And I'm fed up with the TV news. And there's only so many movies I can watch after a while before getting bored out of my mind. I didn't transition to be woman, to be a hermit. I transitioned to be true to myself and to be happy. But I'm just frustrated that I'm always home unless I'm going to doctors or taking my son to doctors. And I do have a surgery date coming up on September 10th. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I'm somewhat nervous. Plus, I also have these concerns from what happened with me and my car, the unfortunate accident that I was in, because I'm having all these anxiety attacks about how it's going to impact on my premiums. And I'm still worried about having a balance on the old car, the Toyota Prius C, even though it's totaled and I surrendered title already and the plates have been returned. So that's all weighing on me because my financial situation isn't great. I have no savings. I'm not looking for pity. I'm not looking for sympathy. But I am getting frustrated that I'm home a lot. My son too is in the same situation, unfortunately, and he's much younger. I'm older, so I can deal with it more. But my poor son, he's young, he's bored, anxious, and I know that a group home would be best for him, but he's just not wanting to do this. And now we may have to go to the courts to have him declared incompetent legally, which is very hard for me to have to do. And I'm sure it's going to cost money. I don't care about what it costs. I just care about my son's welfare. Right now, I gotta run some errands. I usually take my son with me, but he's sleeping. I tried to wake him, but he's sleeping, so I don't want to disturb him. But I'm just tired of being home alone when my son is out, or home with my son being so frustrated and trying to find things to do. You know, there's only so much I can do with my son due to financial things, but I will never have that affect my taking him out to a movie or getting something to eat. There are some things we need to do, and we can't just cut those things out, you know. So, I mean, if I had to cut out taking my son to movies and getting him something to eat, then what's the whole point of life? I mean, if we have to live so restricted, you know. I'm trying my best to be a good father to my son, despite my identification as a woman. And I'm just frustrated, you know. I love my son, and I'm going to be in surgery from September 10th, and then recovering in the hospital for at least 4 days, and then coming home and having to recover for another 2 or 3 months possibly. And I won't be able to do much. I won't be able to drive. I won't be able to get up and do much. So my ability to get my son out of the house will be nearly impossible. And thank God we do have some of his social workers who are working to get people in to get him out of the house occasionally. We need that to step up a little more frequently because I won't be available for a while to get him out. And I'm just tired of being alone a lot and having no one to go out with only occasionally. And this whole situation with my car is kind of messing me up a little bit. I don't have many people to talk to, so I feel like I'm all by myself. You know, my wife works, and she's not so sympathetic to my situation. And my son, as much as I love him, it could be difficult at times when he has meltdowns or, you know, is defiant with me or argues with me. I'm trying to be diplomatic. I'm trying to help him cope better, trying to offer him advice, and then he shuts me out. I know that when kids grow up, they want their own independence, but Matthew's a special situation because of his autism, and I'm concerned about him and his welfare, and that's why a group home is necessary. But I can't just force him into a group home, and we have to first find one that's suitable, and we also have to get Matthew over the anxiety of that whole experience, because he also needs to be there and be told what the group home is all about and the age group of the people represented in the group home, because ideally we would want him in a group home that will be with peers near his age. I don't want him in a group home where there are going to be 50-year-olds or older people or even 30-year-olds. Matthew has limited life experience. He's 20. He's highly functioning. However, his social maturity is more in line with a 10-year-old rather than a 20-year-old. So these are concerns of mine. Plus, I've walked away from surgery 5 times already for various reasons. Either I walked away from it or my surgeons postponed it. So this is it. If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And the surgery date is coming closer, September 10th, and I am having some anxiety about it. But I think I'll be okay. The thing that concerns me, though, is the extended recovery time. And I'm already frustrated because I'm alone a lot. I don't have much contact with people. And I didn't transition to become a woman to become a hermit. I transitioned to become a woman to have a productive role in society, to be able to work, to be able to be respected, to have dignity, to not be shunned by the world, to not be shunned by former friends, to be shunned by my sisters, to be shunned by family relatives. I transitioned to be happy, and maybe I was naive, because I'm naive in so many respects in life. Even a friend said she was kind of surprised that I'm naive, even in regard to, I don't want to say the word, but things that grown-ups do. That's the best way I can explain that. But I admit I'm naive. I was naive when I came out, thinking that everything would be fine. And actually my life turned upside down. And I'm not looking for any sympathy or pity. I'm just trying to live my life. You know, I was very scared when I got into this car accident. I didn't have control of the car, something mechanically went wrong. I don't know what their determination is going to be in their investigation, the Toyota investigation. I don't know how this is going to play out with my insurance. I'm concerned that they may drop me. I'm concerned that my premiums will skyrocket. And right now, financially, I am struggling. I had to liquidate all my monies that I had from retirement because I lost my job 7 years ago and I have no means of backup monies. God forbid I face that same situation that I did 7 years ago with foreclosure threat. So I'm very scared sometimes. I did attempt suicide in January of this year because of my financial worries and my frustrations and my loneliness and isolation and my worries for my son who's autistic, and I'm not really knowing what to do to help him. And I'm alone, a lot scared, and I'm trying my best to make things work out. And do you really think that I'm so excited about surgery to alter my body? I'm not, but I feel I need to, for various reasons that no one out there who's mainstream could ever understand. You know, some people say maybe surgery is not a good idea, but I have to find that out for myself, because if I never try, I'll never know. And I'm only doing it for me. I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm not doing it to have sexual encounters. I'm doing it because it feels right for me, based on all that has happened in my life. And I've went through tragedy. And I'm not saying that none of you out there have gone through tragedy. I know you have. Whether it's the loss of a parent, whether it's the loss of a child, whether it's the loss of a good friend. We all have challenges. We all have setbacks. We all have tragedies. Even the loss of a job is traumatic. I've been there. I know. And also I have friends who are dealing with terminal illnesses. And my heart goes out to them. You know, I don't know what it's like to have a terminal illness, not knowing if you're going to die imminently or if you're going to be lucky and live for a good while. It's all unknown. It's all a mystery. And I'm tired of being treated as if there's something wrong with me because I identify as a woman. I'm tired of ignorance. I'm tired of hatred. I'm tired of this administration. I'm just fed up with this world that we live in, with violence, killings, disrespect for human life, hatred, division. And our president, I hold a good deal of responsibility for, because he's promoting division. He's promoting hate. He's a white supremacist. He doesn't care about the middle class. His middle class tax cuts were a joke. I never paid as much income tax as I did under Obama's presidency, or any other president for that matter. This year, I had to pay more taxes than I ever did, and I lost the benefit of $7,000 in my itemized deductions for my real estate tax and state tax for my wife, because they limited the deduction to $10,000. So I lost $7,000 right then and there. And I don't make enough money to survive, really. Neither does my wife. Combined income, very minimal, less than $75,000. Yet we, who earn roughly $75,000, even less maybe, I think 65,000 I think now. We make hardly any money, yet we're paying a lot in tax. Even my Social Security disability is taxed, a good part of it, because I had to make my last withdrawal from my IRA because my increase in my car premiums I couldn't afford based on my balance, so I had to liquidate the last IRA that I had. So I'm very worried financially, you know. I'm worried that I need to sell this house in the near term. I don't even know where we would live. I'm afraid that Matthew may be placed in a group home in Long Island and I may have to move somewhere, tiny apartment somewhere down south, and my wife most likely would not join me because the only reason why we're all together now is because of Matthew. And once Matthew's taken out of the equation and is in a group home, and I'm not trying to be selfish, but Matthew's our only child. We love him. We know his mindset that he doesn't want to go into a group home because of the miserable experience he had at a residential school upstate, 8 hours away, where he spent 3 years, and his education was lacking. He didn't get the benefit of an education that a typical student would get. No foreign language, no math beyond algebra, no biology, no chemistry, no physics, none of that, you know. Not even a home ec course or an industrial arts course. He didn't even have a gym requirement. And he never even had the SAT opportunity. So even if he wanted to eventually, when he's ready, to go to Nassau, he'd be in all remedial classes. Normally, typical graduation for a Nassau Community College graduate is roughly 2 years, unless you're going part-time. Then obviously it's longer. But for Matthew, he may be there for like 4 years. And it just upsets me. And I didn't transition to be alone, isolated, abandoned by many, hurt emotionally by many. Sure, I was naive, but I wouldn't not do it because this is who I am. And I can't prevent who I am as a person. I denied it for over 50 years. I don't want to deny it anymore. It's not fair to me. And I was upset when my son said that he misses his dad. So upset that I tried to please him naively by getting my hair cut and then having to wear men's clothes when I couldn't, in my heart, want to wear it, but I had no choice. Because now, with the haircut, I didn't look feminine anymore. So it would have been a total mismatch to wear a dress with a man's haircut. And I suffered for 2 weeks. I even had to specially arrange an appointment with my psychiatrist because of it. And then I had to postpone surgery because of it. So I've been through a lot. This is going to be my fifth, or I lose track. Let's say my fifth. This will be my 5th attempt at the surgery. And if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. So this is it. This is it. And September 10th is right around the corner. And I'm still worried about this whole thing with the car, the insurance, whether I'm still going to owe money on the other car that I no longer own and have title to. And I still have a car that I have to make payments on, and roughly the same amount as I paid on the other car. And this is a leased car, which I thought you would pay a little less monthly than I'm actually paying. So, and then I have hospital bills that I still have to pay off. because of my many years of being in hospitals, mostly psychiatric hospitals, and then my recent attempt at suicide in January, because I couldn't take all the stress of life anymore. And I value life. Believe me, I value it. And I have a son that I would never want to hurt. And I do believe that I can contribute to society, even though people hate people like me, especially the president and the government. It's not fair. And here I am, again, in my house, isolated from the world, not by my doing, but by society. I can't work, and legitimately I am permanently disabled due to my depression, bipolar disorder, and that I've been discriminated against because I'm transgender. Sometimes I don't want to live anymore, but I have a son I love, and it wasn't my time when I attempted suicide in January. And it wasn't my time when I got into this horrifying car accident, even though I was preparing to die. And I keep saying it, and I'll continue to say it. I'm not over-dramatizing it. I really, sincerely thought when I lost total control of that car that I was either going to crash directly into a car in front of me, but thank God I had the presence of mind to avoid that. Swerve to my right, bracing for my death, as the last image in my mind is Matthew, as I'm ready to hit trees. I thought it was over for me. I was preparing for it. I've had friends who've died in car accidents. And when you're involved in a dramatizing or accident of that great magnitude, sure you'd be shaken up. Sure you'd be traumatized. And my sisters don't give a shit about me. They know I'm on Facebook. They see my posts. You think they would say, "Are you okay?" They couldn't even say that. Neither have any family relatives, with the exception of one, who I love because he's a good friend. And sadly, he lost his older brother to suicide. So he knows where I'm coming from. And we have a relationship, thank God. And he's my only cousin, family relative, that does have a relationship with me. And I have a few others who have expressed concern for me over time. My cousin Tom is my best cousin who cares about me, and I have a cousin Dion, who also is a great source of comfort to me and accepts me, just like my cousin Tom. But all my other cousins and family relatives, aunts, uncles, could give a shit about me. They couldn't give a shit about me. Neither would my sisters. They're more concerned about someone's dog dying than their brother, who's transgender, almost getting messed up in a car accident. Physically, I'm okay. Mentally, I'm not so okay. And you think they would care? Suppose I died in this accident. Would that change things? I'm sometimes wondering if it would. So, I have to fight this depression I have. I have to do something healthy. I have to try to do the best for my son. And I can't worry about my insurance going up. I can't worry about the results of this investigation. I can't worry about things. I just have to try to take one day at a time. Live my life to the best that I can. Be a good person. listen to people. People accepted and embraced me at our cross-country reunion. They made me happy. They made me feel good about myself. But not my relatives, not my sisters. Sometimes I wonder about life and why we have to suffer so much. Is it a test? Does it mean that if we suffer more and we come out of it, that we go to heaven? Or is this hell? Because life is not enjoyable to me at this point. I love my family. I love my son. Despite my relationship with my wife not being on solid ground, I still love her. Of course I love her. She's the mother of my son. And that's not the only reason why I love her. I have feelings for her. I sympathize with her. I care about her. I care about her family. They're more family to me than my relatives and sisters are. They accept me. It took them a while, but they accept me. They embrace me. And what would be my alternative? To live alone? No, that is a horrible scenario. I like that I have family. I like that I have my son and my wife and my mother-in-law from time to time and my sister-in-law, because I need people around me. If I was all by myself, alone, I'd probably give up. I'd probably end my life, because I can't deal with loneliness. I can't deal with isolation. I can't deal with the potential that my wife and I will have to separate once Matthew goes into a group home. And I can't deal especially with the fact that Matthew's in a group home in Long Island and I may have to move down south and never probably see him again. I'd rather put a gun to my head than to have to live like that. Life sucks. And then you die. Basically, that's it. My father had so much to live for, yet he ended his life by his own hands. My mother got so mentally sick that she starved herself to death. My cousin, of my favorite cousin Tommy, his wife walked out on him. She was cheating on him. Took the 3 kids and wouldn't allow him to visit them, completely writing him off from their family. So what does he do? He goes into his car, his Jeep, pulls a gun out of his glove compartment, and then he puts it to his head and pulls the trigger. And then his mother comes home 10 minutes later to see that horror. And my father and I, had just visited with them 2 years earlier to have a Christmas celebration. Life is unfair. People suffer. I am not asking for sympathy or pity or a handout. I'm just stating the facts. And I know people out there have far worse. I know people are starving in the world, little children who fight just to have drinking water. And their mothers and fathers are so desperate and feeling like, why did we even bring children into the world to suffer like this? While there are mansions and people throwing major, excessive parties because they're rich beyond their means, they'll have more money for 1,000 lifetimes. While there are people who are just wanting to eat a meal, there are people homeless in the streets that I see every time I go to the city to see my doctors asking for a small handout. And if I have money in my pocket, my handbag, I'll give it to them, even though I'm financially up against the wall myself. Because people are supposed to help people. That's what I've always been taught. That we are supposed to help people in need. And that's important. That's what life should be about. People helping people. And not about cutthroat competition. Not about backstabbing. Not about people talking behind your back. Not about people making fun of you because you're different. Not about people killing you because you're different. We live in a violent society. Kids go to schools now worrying if they're going to get shot up. The stupid people in Washington don't even want to agree on sensible gun control laws. How many times are we going to have tragedies in this world, in this country, before politicians decide that there has to be something done, instead of ignoring it and burying their heads in the sand because they don't want to give up the lobbyists at the NRA who support their campaigns. And I'm talking about the Republican Party. I hate the Republican Party. They're nothing but a bunch of spineless people who are afraid to confront Trump because they're so goddamn concerned about their position rather than the country and the people who are struggling and suffering. They're willing to have this president cut Social Security, disability, Medicare, Medicaid. They're willing, and food stamps, and they're willing to give the very rich the tax cuts while lying to the middle class and phrasing their tax plan as a relief for the middle class, while they take away their personal exemptions, while they take away their state and local taxes, having a threshold amount, so they can't take their true outlay of real estate taxes. And my real estate taxes increased again this year. I'm paying over $14,000 in real estate taxes. And that's why I have to move out of Long Island, out of New York, to a state where real estate taxes are a minimum. And that's why I need to make big changes in my life and try to get rid of this house, sell it for hopefully some money that I will split down the line with my wife. And I have no idea what the future holds for me, my son, my wife, my in-laws. And I know for a fact my sisters will never come around and accept me or invite me to their children's weddings or invite me to their children's graduations. Heck, they didn't even invite me to my 26-year-old nephew's funeral. And I was heartbroken when I learned that he was a victim of opioid addiction. It broke my heart. But my wife, my sister didn't even have the decency to have me come and grieve for my nephew, who I had a life with. I used to take him to baseball games. I loved him. I loved him as if he was my son. I love my son to death. I love my son with all my heart and soul. And you think I'm not heartbroken by the fact that he has to go into a group home? I am devastated. I'm devastated that it seems he'll never have a life filled with joy, promise, success. I'm afraid that he'll have to be in a group home for the rest of his life. I always promised him a Disney World vacation. And even if I set up a GoFundMe page to help fund a Disney World trip for my son, I wouldn't probably even get $1 donated to that GoFundMe. And this is something that I always wanted to do. But being out of work 7 years, and even when I was working, I still didn't have the monies to spend 10 to 12,000 for 1 week in Disney World. And now it seems it'll never happen. And even if I set up a GoFundMe page, it would be a useless exercise of futility because there are not many people who care. I'm not judging any of you, but the reality is more people are more concerned about their lives than trying to help others. If I had $10 and that was the last amount of money I had to my name, and I saw someone starving in the streets, homeless, begging for some assistance, I would see that that person gets that $10. And even if I didn't have money in my pocket and someone was asking to get a lunch, I would help them. I would pay for it on my debit card. And I don't have a lot of money, but I have a heart. I am compassionate. I care. I am a good person. And I've proven that. And I related a story about a woman around Thanksgiving, like the day before, who didn't have enough money to pay a grocery bill. And the checkout person said, you have to return whatever you can't pay for. And I got so affected mentally and emotionally, and I was working at the time. So I told the woman, you need these items to celebrate with your family. And she had 2 little kids in the shopping cart. And I said, no worries. I told the cashier I'll pay for her. And I did. And I don't remember what the bill came out to. Maybe like $100 to $140. I don't have an idea. But I wasn't going to have to witness that woman, that poor woman, having to give back foods that she wanted to need for her family celebration. So I paid her. And I'm not asking for any accolades. I'm not asking for a pat on the back, nice job, you have a good heart. I'm not asking for any of that. I feel that's my duty as a person. If I see someone struggling, I will help them. I don't ask for people to help me when I struggle. I try to be strong. I try to be a survivor. I try my best to make things work out. But when I see a person struggle, it's in my nature to try to help them, to do something good, to make an impact as little as it is, because there's too much violence in the world. There's too much hate in the world. And if we could all spread a little goodness in our lives, maybe we just might make this world a little better place. Just like that poor girl, Rachel Joy Scott, who was the first victim at the Columbine shooting massacre. And she had a strong faith in God. And when the perpetrator put a gun to her after he already shot her, seeing her bleeding and dying, and the question that was asked of her is, do you still believe in God? And she replied, you know I do. And in the movie, I don't know what was said in the real life situation, but in the movie, the perpetrator, who was an actor, who didn't commit this crime, and the actress didn't die, but this did happen in real life, and this was a dramatic portrayal. And the perpetrator, after she said, you know I do, said, then go be with him. And then you hear her, and then you see her close her eyes, preparing to die, as you hear the gunshot blast, and then the scene goes to black. And you know what happened. She died, along with 13 other students and a teacher. And she was the first victim of that shooting. She made it to Wikipedia, but she made it to Wikipedia in a most tragic way. Her life was lost at the hands of unstable, gun-toting people with no conscience. And we're talking about kids, high school students. And in the movie, it was portrayed that the perpetrator who pulled the trigger was a subject to bullying. And I know in my heart, if Rachel Joy Scott could help that boy because of his being bullied, she would gladly help him. She would gladly speak to him. And maybe the scenario would have been different. But that didn't happen because she couldn't offer that, because he would not probably even accept it, even though that's speculation. And I wonder why Parkland has to happen. Why at the Marjorie Stoneman High School, I believe. Why the Virginia Tech massacre had to happen. Why the Oklahoma City bombings had to happen. Why the 9/11 terrorist attacks had to happen. Why so many of these horrifying accidents have to happen. I read a story about this poor Japanese girl who was tortured for 44 days, all because she turned down a boy's asking her to date. And they tortured her for 44 days because they belonged to a Japanese mafia. They did everything that you could never even conceive of. Just one of those acts would be enough to destroy your mind. And she lived virtually in hell, 44 days, being treated horribly, raped hundreds of times by many, many, many people, boys with no consciences, monsters. And then they did horrible things with her body parts, horrible things. They lit her on fire. They used her as a punching bag. What kind of society do we live in where a poor girl, 17 years old, who hasn't even lived her life, gets to be tortured like that? And the sentences passed down to these monsters were minimal because they considered them juveniles. So they gave them minimum sentences while they destroyed a girl's life and her mother and family. And when the mother discovered what happened to this poor girl, her daughter, she had a nervous breakdown and had to be confined to a mental institution. And to add insult into injury, the cops couldn't even find her body. It took 6 months to find her because she was encased in concrete. Her poor body that was tortured day and night for 44 days. They said that was the most brutal and horrific death that had ever been encountered. I think this world is in a bad place. Our country is in a bad place because of all that's going on with our president, with our politicians, Republicans. I believe Democrats care and Republicans suck. And this president is the worst leader ever in the world who respects dictators more than his own FBI. So here I am alone to my thoughts, which are destructive to me, and I don't have anyone to stop by to say hello. I have no one to talk to. And my son is sleeping, and when he wakes up, because I tried to wake him up several times and he just says, let me sleep. And I know it's because he's depressed. Because I sleep too when I'm depressed. And I don't want to wake up until I'm ready to wake up. because I don't want to suffer with my thoughts. I want to be happy. I want to be respected. I want to have dignity. I am a good person. I've always been a good person. And I don't need to be treated with disrespect and hate, especially by my sisters and my family relatives and ignorant people like the president, who doesn't care about transgender people. But when he was on his campaign, he said he would fight for the rights of LGBT communities and that he's loyal and devoted to LGBT communities. And he said that he would protect Social Security and he would make sure that all of us who are entitled to it will receive it with no cuts whatsoever. And now as president, because of his $1 trillion deficit and his passing out of monies to the rich, now he's trying to figure out where he's going to get the money to make up for his deficit that he imposed on the country by slashing Social Security, by slashing Medicare, by slashing Medicaid, by slashing food stamps, because he doesn't give a shit about us. He gives more credence and concern to the very wealthy because they're the ones that donate to his campaign, and the NRA, because they make tremendous contributions to him because he's got an A++ rating with the NRA. And he's evil. He's the epitome of evil. I can't compare him to Adolf Hitler, who destroyed millions and millions and millions of innocent people because of their religion, because they were Jewish. And he put them all to death. And there were survivors who had to live this nightmare in their lives, who tried to express it in books, to teach the world that this happened. And to the poor girl, Anne Frank, who wrote a beautiful diary that I've read many times, because she suffered in silence and in hiding out with her family, her sister, her mother, her father, and another Jewish family who was helped out tremendously by a concerned family who wasn't Jewish, but embraced them and would do anything to help that family. And yet the Nazis discovered them and placed them on trains, marching them off or riding them off to their deaths in horrifying conditions and being exterminated with gas, as if they were being showered upon, but not by water, by deadly gas. And the only survivor of that family was the father. And he saw, when he discovered her writings, to publish that, to get it out into the world, so people could read the story of a young girl who had hopes, who had dreams, who wanted to make life a better place. And despite all of this hatred that we are now living through in this country, not on the same scale. I can't compare what this is like to the Holocaust, obviously. But the theme is the same: hatred, division, racism, superior thinking, white supremacy. And that father of Anne made sure that her message, through her writings, was introduced to the world in a book. that someone published because they knew that story had to be told. And despite all that she suffered, she says she truly believes that man is good, even though she knew most likely that her life would be cut short. I am very sickened by all that I see in this world and in this country, and the hate and the division, the divisiveness, and still cannot comprehend that there are people that still support him. And what kind of president only cares about his base while he couldn't give a shit about anybody else like us? And what kind of president deliberately holds little children and babies in cages, separating them from their parents, causing their parents such grief, and causing those children nightmares and PTSD that they most likely will suffer for the rest of their lives, including their parents, and who they may never see again? What kind of a country is this? It's not a country I recognize. This country has gone to pot. It has gone, I'm not talking about marijuana, I'm talking about this country has come so far down from what it used to be that I don't even want to be an American anymore. I am not proud to say I'm an American with this person in the White House who's hurting so many, who's destroying alliance relationships, who's hurting farmers who need to make a living because of his tariffs, who's bankrupting the country with trillion-dollar deficits that will affect future generations for thousands of years. And I'm not exaggerating. And he blames everybody else except him. And just because he feels the economy and the stock market are doing well, that he takes full credit for. This economy is spiraling out of control. These tariffs that were imposed are causing stock markets to go down. These tariffs are hurting many people who are trying to make a living. And do you think he cares? Of course not. He only cares that his businesses are benefiting from his so-called presidency. He's full of lies. He says he's under audit, so he can't furnish his tax returns. You know what the real reason is why he refuses to furnish his tax returns? Because he knows that if those returns are furnished to the American population, they will see how much of a fraud he is, how much of someone who is a hypocrite, who probably finds all ways to avoid paying income tax, whether they're legitimate or based on fraud. And I would make a good bet that most of his zero tax returns are based more on fraud than tax strategies. I've talked about a lot of things in this video that I had no idea I would even subjectively speak about. But like I always say, my videos are heartfelt, sincere videos, and whatever comes to my mind, I will express it. I don't have a specific agenda in what I want to talk about. I talk about things that I see and what I feel in my heart. I don't need a written, prepared script to make a video. I talk impromptu, and I think that's the best way to communicate, because I'm being truthful, I'm being honest, I'm being sincere, and because I'm expressing myself. Because if I don't express myself and my feelings and the way I see things, who else will? I can speak on my own behalf. I can express what I'm going through. I can share with all of you what it is and what I am and who I am. And believe me, I am a kind person who has empathy, who does care for others, who's not self-absorbed, who's not selfish, who doesn't care about others, who doesn't have a heart, because I have all of that. I am compassionate. I am concerned. I do have a heart. And I am not selfish. And I am not self-absorbed. I'm a human being just like anybody else. And I have feelings, emotions. And I do care about people. And I know there are people far off worse than I am. And I know there are people that don't even have a roof over their heads. And I know there are people that are literally starving just for a cup of water and a little bit of rice so they can fill themselves with something. And I despise those who support an egomaniacal, egotistical, self-centered, narcissistic, uncaring, unfeeling, ruthless, vengeful, evil president who doesn't give a shit about us and only cares about his base, who seem more like cultists, and Trump seems like a cult leader. I've never seen anything in my life of what I'm seeing in this country during this awful, disgusting presidential administration. It is horrible. It is horrifying. It is evil. And this is not the United States I thought I would ever see. I am not a proud American, and I do not support this president. And this is the first time in my life, as a 58-year-old transgender woman and living as a male for 50 years, I have never in my life ever hated a president, with the exception of Donald Trump, who, in my honest opinion, is an evil, gutless, most hateful, unfeeling, uncaring, woman hater, minority hater, racist, and white supremacist. And I'm shocked that he's still in office. And I'm shocked that 40% of America still support this guy. If I had a chance, I'd go to Canada or Ireland if we have to suffer another 4 years of this, I don't even want to say his name anymore, but another 4 years of this BS, I'd rather die or get the hell out of this country. because I no longer support this country with this administration in charge. And I hate the Republicans. And I hate Mitch McConnell with a passion. And I hate these spineless Republicans who are so afraid to take a stand, to call him out. What happened to checks and balances? What happened to the amendment that says if a president is unfit, he should not assume office? What happened to that? Which the original framers of the Constitution had in writing. And you know what the worst thing of all is? That this country, I didn't, but most of this country voted for this guy because he's not a politician, because he's a businessman, despite the fact that he had multiple bankruptcy filings, despite the fact that he's had many lawsuits waged against him, despite the fact that his supposed school was an opportunity rather than a scam. This is the worst thing that America has encountered. Not only for my lifetime, but for years way previously before my lifetime, our lifetimes. I can't even trace back to a president as evil as him. And the only modern president that comes to mind that I hated, but not with the same intensity, was Richard Nixon, Richard M. Nixon, because he also was a liar. He also tried to evade the truth. So I hope that these Democrats running for president will be able to beat Trump. Because like I said, another 4 years of this. You think this is a nightmare? Another 4 years of this will probably result in many people either killing themselves or fleeing the country because they cannot take his bullshit anymore. And I'm already sick of it. I'm sorry that my YouTube video took a tone like this. And I hope that YouTube does not censor this, or Facebook does not censor this, because we have a freedom of speech. We have a freedom of expression. We can tell it like it is. We have every right to. They afford that to Twitter with Trump, and he criticizes everybody who doesn't agree with him. So I have every right to voice my opinion on Trump and how much I hate him and think he's doing a disservice to this country. And he's riling up white supremacists. He's riling up bad people. He is the epitome of evil, and he must be overthrown like any other dictator. And I will post this because I think it's important. And YouTube, Facebook, Tumblr, Pinterest, and LinkedIn should not censor this video because I'm speaking the truth. This is not fake news that President Trump shoves down our throats that people are gullible to believe, but not me. I'm not exceptionally bright, but I know a liar when I see one. I know someone who hates when I see one in the limelight, like this president. And I just want him to go away. It's been too much, and it's only 2 years. And I am not gonna cope with another 6 years of this BS. 2 years remaining, and then, God forbid, another 4 years of this guy. We need to get him out. Like Tom Steyer says in his commercials, who now is also running for president. And Pete Buttigieg, I'm very proud of him. Not because I'm LGBT, because he's got morals, he's got credentials, he's got love in his heart for this country, and he served this country with pride and dignity. And I speak of all those Democrats running for presidency. They all have somewhat different agendas, but they know that this country is in trouble, and they know their responsibilities and duties to the people of this once great country, America. And Trump, with his stupid motto, "Make America Great Again," what a joke. This is the worst America that I have had to experience. The absolute worst. He's not making America great again. He's destroying America. He's destroying all that America was built upon. He's forbidding immigration. He wants to get rid of birthright immigration. People who were born in this country. He wants to deport. He wants to deport the dreamers who contribute greatly to this country. He wants to build a wall to hurt this country, to sever country lines, to break up alliances with other countries. He wants to destroy the environment deliberately because he doesn't care. And believe me, with all of his laws that he's put into action, eliminating regulations that serve a purpose, who doesn't listen to scientists' recommendations, who's even gotten rid of the EPA or turned it upside down because it doesn't fit his beliefs. He believes that climate change is all made up. He believes that global warming is a lie that the Chinese conspired to, because we have summer days that are hot and winter days that are cold. He doesn't know the science. He refuses to listen to the well-informed, to the scientists who know. And he jokingly said he knows more than the generals do. And he's never had a day in military service. The only military service he, even if you want to consider it, was going to a military school, which was more like a bordering school. He's an insult to the presidency's office. He's an insult to America. He's an insult to the world. And he should be removed from office. And I'm shocked that he hasn't even been impeached yet. I'm shocked that he's still serving as president. So this is Emily Ionelli, and I'm signing off Because if I had another hour or 2 or 3, I would continually express my opinion. And I'm just mentally exhausted right now with all the things I'm going through personally. And raising an autistic son who I love and care about, who now most likely will be going into a group home even though he doesn't want to. And I'm dealing with my own stress and a horrifying accident that I was involved in, and trying to prepare myself emotionally for upcoming surgery, and not going to be able to go to my 40-year high school reunion. But thankfully, I had the opportunity to go to my cross-country reunion to celebrate with my former teammates and to honor our coach, who is a stand-up guy and a role model and an inspiration and someone who made a tremendous influence on my life. And I love him because he helped me and he knew what my situation was. And he respected me as much as he respected the elite runners. He treated me no differently. He made sure that I felt good about myself. He built up my confidence. He built up my self-esteem. And he made me feel like my life was worth living. And he wanted to teach me good principles. He wanted me to learn that you should still run the race. Even if you're in last place, you complete the race. And I've always completed every race I ran in. And I wasn't last place. In fact, I was in the middle of the pack because I ran with my heart in it. And I wanted to try to please my teammates and especially my coach to the best of my ability. And I thank him. And I should actually do a separate video to specifically address my cross-country team and my coach. And I will, because I love Coach, and I love my teammates, and I consider them friends for life. Thank you.